Hey, welcome to the show, everybody. Council on Future Conflicts, episode 4. Are we 480? Yeah, we are 480. By the way, we did misnumber yesterday's episode. Apologies on that. I think it was
No,
right in the thumbnail, but not in the YouTube. Anyway, a
no,
couple of
I
you
fixed
guys.
it.
Okay, all right. Anyway, episode 480. Today's Friday, and that means our Domestic Friday should be fun. I'm Scott. I'm the proprietor of the Future Conflict Channel. Today, we're going to be flexing our Monroe doctrine muscle. If you've been a fan for a show for a while, you've no doubt heard me go on and on and on about my 3 rules of foreign policy. But I was thinking about it today, and I haven't really kind of deep dived on those for a while. So we're going to be doing a little bit of that today. They're just like rules that I think do a good job of keeping Uncle Sam's backyard nice and tight, from Panama to the southwest border. So today we're going to see how that kind of converges in Central America specifically. So we'll be talking some Panama stuff. And then the second topic is a little bit of a departure from what we normally do. So normally we do 3 stories, and we kind of link the stories together into kind of one topic. But this one is less about the stories and more about something that's happened and what we could do to kind of fix it, right? So it's a little more of a thought project today. So we'll see how that goes. So the idea there is, so we're looking at the rightful death of USAID, and so how are we going to wield soft power? That's what everybody said. USAID is your vessel for soft power. Well, it wasn't doing a very good job. USAID is a corpse. There's no global thermonuclear war today, so it's just home turn grit. So we're going to be talking about what could come instead of, kind of after USAID. So we'll be looking at that. Anyway, like I said, you may know some tweaks to the show today. One of the things that's been really kind of on my mind is tightening up the show a little more. Like you guys, I have a day job, so I do this just kind of literally after my family time and on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So a lot of times the loose nature of the show has as much to do with the fact that, we're not able to do as much prep work. It doesn't help. It doesn't help that Watcher, poor guy, has to wake up at 5:30 in order to just get on to the show in time. So of course he doesn't have time to prep right before the show, and all the stuff that I do is done generally while he's asleep. So he's got Watch, you got about 30 minutes before the show to really understand exactly what's going on. So anyway, you see the dilemma. So I'm gonna work on tightening things up, less kind of random discussion and more focused on what's going on. All right, let's roll. Joe's not here with us, though we understand he may be coming soon. We'll see. If it's just me and Watcher, that's fine. That's cool. I think it's good for me to kind of practice doing more stuff like where I'm just talking directly to the chat versus playing off of the council. So as I go into retirement, I'm going to have to own my own voice a little more, I think. So maybe we'll practice that a little bit. All right, Watcher, how you doing today, brother?
Good. Can't wait for the back in my day stories to begin. It's I'm excited.
Yeah.
No, doing good.
Brother. How the chickens doing?
Good. Well, you've caught me, Scott. The chickens have multiplied. We had to go to the feed store again last night. And here's the deal. So we got the main herd of chickens, the main flock. They're going to be egg layers. And in the process, we started looking into different chicken breeds. And my wife wanted one, and my kids wanted a different one. And I thought yet another third one looked kind of interesting. Not because they were good egg layers, because they're not. They're just kind of pretty, and we wanted one or two of those birds to kind of.
They're pets. They're fucking pets, Watcher.
Exactly. No, that's exactly what they are. Like these ones are the pet ones. And the crappy thing there is that to order them from a hatchery, you have to order 15. When each person was only wanting 1 or 2. But yeah, now the feed store's got them. So yeah, we picked up a couple of sapphire. Hold on, let me get this right. Sapphire gem olive eggers.
All right. I'll take your word for it. I'll just wait for you to start posting social media updates on them. And you can, I'll find out about them then.
So real quick, so black Australorps is what we went with for the main egg laying flock. But yeah, doing good. Got a couple of teeny tiny small ones again, and the other ones are all fat and big and almost have their full feathers now. So
very cool. Well, I mean, you showed us pictures of the main breed that you bought, and that looked pretty cool, all grown up. So it'll be cool to see how your flock develops. All right, anything else? Nothing heard. All right, let's jump right into the odds and ends.
There is one thing, just one tiny thing.
Go ahead.
Are we going to do a transition today? The chat's been hounding me about lack of doing transition music for the last couple of months.
What transit? What are you talking about for Rumble?
Jumping over to Rumble. Yeah.
Yeah, fuck it. Why not? If you're on YouTube, be prepared to switch after odds and ends over to Rumble. We're gonna do an all Rumble show today. Should be fun. Well, not all Rumble, but after the odds and ends. The segment 1 and 2 will all be over on Rumble. So you just prepare yourself. And mods, just make sure there you go. Daisy Girl's just immediately dropping the Rumble link. Don't go over there yet. If you're on YouTube, so here's the strategy, guys. Let me explain it to you. You guys on YouTube, so like right now, what do we got over on YouTube? We got about 52 watching right now on YouTube, right? And that's pretty normal at the beginning of the show, and it takes about 15 to 20 minutes to kind of blow up the entire, get up to about 100 to 120 or so on YouTube. So what we'll do is we'll do the odds and ends, and then all the people on YouTube immediately switch over to Rumble. And what that does is that, when you get like 50, 60, 70 people going into Rumble, that gives it an algorithmic spike, and then it kind of pops it into the front page, more likely, and things like that. So that's what we'll be doing. But before we do any of that, Peter says, Helicopter Tours for $5 says, Watcher, can you elaborate on any sentiment amongst chicken owners as to what the government is or has been doing regarding the avian flu here or Rumble?
Yeah. It's been, from what I have seen, it's been pretty common sentiment that it's pretty obvious that the government was purposely killing off chickens in order to help certain friends of specific politicians in the egg industry. That's literally it. I mean, I'm sorry, but I just went to the store yesterday, and I shit you not, a regular, not fancy, not free range, not anything, dozen eggs was freaking, I think, $9. In a small community close to where they're produced as well, so it's not like that's big city prices or something. So yeah, from what I understand, hens were killed at certain operations, and other operations still have all theirs. And when half the egg supply goes away and the other half of the egg supply is owned by someone who's friends with the legislators, it becomes a little suspicious.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know anything about that, but it doesn't surprise me. It does not surprise me. All right, let's jump over and do story number 1. Let's transition to story number 1. Here's a transition for you. Lebanon's Hezbollah
mandated transition.
That's right. Lebanon's Hezbollah to bury Nasrallah in mass funeral. is it bad that I wonder what it would look like if all the pagers in the funeral procession were to blow up at the same time?
And here I was thinking about how many airstrikes it would take to dig a nice big hole for the whole procession.
I know, right? Just one mass grave. Use the bombs to do it. All right. Lebanon's Hezbollah will bury its former leader Hassan Nasrallah on Sunday, nearly 5 months after he was killed. It took that long to dig him out. Was killed in an Israeli airstrike. In a mass funeral aimed at showing political strength after the group emerged badly weakened from last year. Nasrallah was killed on September 27th in an Israeli airstrike. So he was revered by Hezbollah supporters. Nasrallah led Shiite Muslim group through decades of conflict with Israel, overseeing its transformation into a military force. They say that the funeral is a launching pad for the next phase. A great funeral that draws hundreds of thousands is a way of telling everybody that Hezbollah still exists. We're still relevant, guys. Don't leave. Just because we don't have any allies or guns or rockets, we're still here.
Oh, man.
The battle to prove Hezbollah's existence. It was essentially what this would be. So the ceremony will be held at a giant sports arena. Iranian foreign minister will attend. Iranian official said Nasrallah's death was a huge blow to Iran. Yeah, so the big loser in all of this has been Iran. I had a to say about Iran and how you knew they're like, oh, does Iran have a nuclear weapon? And I said no. And of course, I wasn't even in the conversation. I just said it from across the room. And they're like, why do you say that? And I was like, well, listen, when Israel was absolutely just destroying all of their anti-air systems at will without any kind of retribution from Iran's part, the best way to get Israel to stop would have been an underground nuclear test.
And they would have done it if they could have.
And they would have done it if they could have. But they couldn't because they don't have a bomb. And let's be honest, could they get a bomb? Yeah, maybe. I think so. But they don't have a bomb. So maybe they can't have a bomb. Maybe there may actually be impediments that would keep them from doing that. And as of right now, I don't know what they would be, but we'll see. Watcher, what's your kind of take on? I mean, what do you think about? Is this the beginning of the end of Hezbollah, or can they outlive Nasrallah?
I don't look. I don't live over there, so I don't know what the average person is seeing or thinking or hearing. But I don't know how you look. If somebody told me that the Marine Corps, as an organization, had been duped into issuing radios that blew up and killed its entire command structure, and then every leader that it appointed thereafter for like a year and a half got smoked within 12 hours of being announced, I'm not sure you ever recover from that as an institution to the point where you're able to really effectively recruit again. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's something about this I don't understand. But this seems like one of those, Hezbollah is dead, and now we are a successor organization type things. But
well, I right now there's still the undead corpse of is still shambling around.
Yeah.
It hasn't realized that. Hey, buddy, we've got the grave for you, Doug. Here, come on over here and get the box.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think Hezbollah is done for, honestly. Now, that being said, somebody in the chat, I'd love to know what you guys think, by the way, chat. Is yes or no? Does Hezbollah make a comeback? That's what I want to see in the chat. Yeses or nos. Tuggaby Tubin says somebody blew up 3 buses yesterday. Yep, I think that was probably Iran. And the Quds force is still fairly. They've got a lot of trained professionals that are doing exactly this kind of stuff. The IRGC is still a thing. Iran still has some power, but ultimately, they're basically they're basically a eunuch at this point compared to where they were, 2 years ago. Actually, there's a really good video that I watched today. There's a really good video. Let me see if I can find it real quick. It was what's his name? Victor David Hansen. Basically, he said, like, if you told me that they were going to do this, I would never have said. I would never have agreed with you. Let me see the media. Yeah. Here we go. All right.
You gonna link me, or are you sharing it on your own?
I found, like, there's a bunch of clips. I'm just trying to find the right one. Because it's a pretty long interview and it's been kind of chopped up. Let me see. Israel. Of course, I misspelled Israel. Anyway, it might be a bridge too far. Looks like it is. Anyway, the point is he was basically saying, if you had told me, like, before October 7th, that Israel is going to completely destroy Hamas and grind the Gaza Strip into dust, that they would go in and absolutely kick Hezbollah out of southern Lebanon, if Syria were to fall to an Islamist, Al Qaeda supported, leadership that is fairly ambivalent to Israel, and that Israel would fly over unimpeded over Iran and destroy their entire anti-air system, integrated air defense system. If you told me that, like a year and a half ago, before all this happened, I would have told you you're crazy. And, coming from Victor David Hansen, I mean, that's something. This is, if you think about it, I mean, we kind of lived through it. So it's like, it's the frog getting boiled very slowly, but in reality, the water is boiling when it comes to that area of the world, but everybody's kind of just taking it in stride. So this is one of the reasons why we've talked about it so often. All right, let's move on to our next story, shall we? All right, what do we got here? Yes. Australia alarmed over unusual movement of 3 Chinese warships. Wow, it's almost like China's a presence, and Australia's like, wait, what? Why are you coming over here? And we're not part of AUKUS or anything like that. Oh, wait a second, we are. Oh, you mean we might be a target too? This month has seen a series of provocative incidents between Australian and Chinese militaries. Last week, a Chinese fighter jet and Australian military plane had a close encounter, which each side is condemning. Canberra rebuked Beijing for unsafe military conduct after Chinese jet released flares near an Australian Air Force plane patrolling the South China Sea. However, the Chinese government accused the Australian plane of violating Chinese sovereignty and endangering Chinese national security. Oh, the irony of national sovereignty extending over the entire South China Sea. Something we've talked about plenty of times. Following this, China sent warships down the eastern Australian coast, just 150 nautical miles away east of Sydney in a recent first. The Australian Navy has responded by sending its own warship to shadow and monitor the Chinese PLA ships. They include 3 ships, total: a Chinese frigate, a cruiser, and a supply tanker. I bet they don't have a cruiser. I bet they have a frigate, a destroyer, and a supply ship. Yeah, it's definitely not a cruiser. They say we're keeping a close watch on them, and we'll make sure that we are watching every move, says their defense minister. I have no confidence in him whatsoever. It's not unprecedented, but it's an unusual event, he says. And just as they have the right to be in international waters, which is what they're doing, we have the right to be prudent and to make sure that we are surveilling them, which is what we are doing. Watcher. I know that you pay a little bit attention to China. I mean, it's kind of like one of your hobbies. They're your favorite bad guy, maybe even. So, what do you make of this? Is this saber rattling, or is this like new normal?
Unfortunately, this is new normal. I don't know how often they've come close to Queensland and all this kind of. It's going to start happening because there's no longer any buffer nations, and I shouldn't say any buffer nations, but there's no longer enough buffer nations in between. We have slowly allowed all of our allied and non-allied third-party nations in the South Pacific to be rolled, to be turned, to be shall we say stolen out from underneath us with a Belt and Road Initiative. So
yeah, it's almost like that's happened a couple times in the past.
Yeah, we may have covered a few of those over the last 3 years. And at this point, yeah, I mean, they have support docks everywhere they need to between China and all of our partner nations down there. And so as long as there's not any kind of formal war declared, they have the ability to go any freaking where they want to in the South Pacific now.
Just like we have the ability to go like right between Taiwan and the mainland Japan. I mean, mainland China. So yeah, I think you're right. Well, I think that's both, actually. I think this is saber rattling for sure because this is something new. But at the same time, I bet this becomes a regular kind of patrol route that they'll do just to kind of keep Australia on their toes. Now, good news for us, and if we want to make and sell submarines to Australia, this is probably going to motivate Australia to buy those submarines. But anyway, it's an interesting development, and we'll see where this goes. Anything else on this?
Yeah, I think, Win Challenge, they're going to use the exact same arguments we do, which is, we're just preserving freedom of navigation in international waters. So fun to see our own arguments turned back on us, isn't it?
I know, right?
It's the best.
It's almost like they're paying attention. All right, so let's move on to a little more bitter topic here. So as you know, CPAC is going on. This is the Conservative Political Action Campaign or Committee or something like that. Anyway, and so it's basically just an opportunity for a lot of conservative people to come and speak at the dais and have a platform to kind of get their ideas out there. And of course, all the biggies are lining up. But interesting, I don't know if you saw this news, but Matt Schlapp admits to banning some of the J6 community at CPAC, meaning people who served time in the Gulag aren't welcome at CPAC.
Yeah, as we've said time and time again, if you get in trouble serving the Democrats, they will ensure that you not only are protected, but have a job for the rest of your life. If you step in dog poop while helping the Republicans, God help you, because the Republican Party will not.
Yeah, this is right. So let's listen to her report on this.
Some breaking news here. I just got a phone call from Alex Stone, who was at CPAC, and he was finishing up a podcast next to a booth where Matt Schlapp was doing an interview. And he heard with his own ears just moments ago, Matt Schlapp saying that, yes, it was bad optics, and that's why they weren't allowing any of the J6ers. The podcaster that was interviewing Matt Schlapp was in agreement. And, they made a bad decision. It looked so bad. They look like a bunch of old white rhinos that are trying to decide the arbiters of who can be where. And frankly, President Trump pardoned these guys, so they are literally in an affront to the president, who's going to be speaking at CPAC. So let's make sure that President Trump knows that Matt and Mercedes Schlapp made the audacious decision to actually ban the J6 community from coming to CPAC after Jake Lang spent $2,500 on a booth, rented an Airbnb, flew in 22 J6ers himself, and was really just trying to thank the president for the pardon, but also standing up for your rights to a fair and free, speedy trial, your rights not to be flashbanged, your rights not to be shot by the federal government when you go to the Capitol to redress your grievances. How about that? Matt Schlapp, you are a sad, sad testament to what is wrong with the Republican Party right now. You represent the rhinos, the worst of the worst.
Now, I can't say that I don't absolutely agree with everything she just said. And this doesn't surprise me. This sounds like absolutely the turtle himself from Kentucky is like over there at CPAC making calls. Now, good news. There is good news. So after this word got out, evidently CPAC realized that they had stepped in shit and tried to wipe it off their foot by and so this was a subsequent tweet that came out breaking. It appears CPAC has reversed their decision to ban several J6 defendants. Stuart Rhodes was just told to register again after being removed from the event yesterday. So this is the right thing to do. And I'll be honest with you, I still give them a pass. The only reason they brought it back was because people, made
I was going to say,
about
whoever made that decision in the first place still needs to be relieved of duty.
Yeah, Robert, telling you how it is, I think. I've done the day job for 17 years. I haven't attended it since 2010, I think. CPAC is great for college Republicans to have a place to go and find jobs. Yeah, college Republicans actually have the time to go to these types of things. The weird thing is, like, when they're close to big holidays, like, for instance, Turning Point does theirs like right before New Year's or
yeah,
right before Christmas, I think it is. And I'm like, why would you want to do it right before Christmas? I guess maybe it's because the college kids are off, but yeah, I mean, the thing I get out of CPAC is there are generally some good speeches, and so I'll listen to the speeches. Well, some of them, not all of them. The RNC should be having the J6ers tell their story. Exactly right. They should literally be lionizing these people, especially the ones that didn't get in scuffles. Now, let's be honest. There were a handful of J6ers that got in scuffles with police, so that's not the right thing to do. I mean, so okay, maybe you don't lionize that guy, but all of the other people, yeah, you lionize them. That being said, the guys that got in scuffles got pardoned too, which is, individually you could argue that guy shouldn't have been pardoned, but the vast left-wing conspiracy that created the J6 thing made it absolutely unfair for anybody of those people, no matter what they did, to get a fair trial. It's nice to know I'm right sometimes. Thank you.
Well, I was going to say, if you need me to say that you're right about that, I don't know what to say. I've been screaming about that from the rooftops for months, or for years at this point. So
the sad thing, though, is common sense isn't very common these days.
Oh, unfortunately, no, you're totally right. So we've reached the ends of odds and ends, and I have a weird proposal, Scott. We're going to talk about something odd for just a moment before we move on. Odds and ends is the only place I can figure out to tack it on. So Scott, as the audience does not know, but I'm about to fill them in on, you approached me after the show just the other day and said, hey, I tried this kind of interesting experiment using Grok.
Oh, yeah.
You should try it too. And I did. I was deeply impressed with the results, and I sort of shared some of my results, and I know that chat, the ones that follow me on Twitter, were asking me, A, how it went, and B, kind of questions that made me think that you might want to share your results with Grok doing this as well.
Yeah.
For those who are curious what I'm talking about out there, we're both fans of tabletop role-playing games, and turns out Grok can GM many different types of games. Yeah,
I have a soft spot in my heart for like the original basic Dungeons and Dragons, right? Like, and not because
AD&D.
it's better. No, not AD&D.
Really?
Basic, the red box, right? And it not because it's a better game. It is decidedly not a better game. It's the first Dungeons and Dragons I ever played. Like I literally in third grade, I got the red box and I read through it like 10 times over the weekend. Like my grandparents actually bought it for me, which, shock, my Southern grandparents back in the 80s buying Dungeons and Dragons, but Satanism in a box.
I was just going to say, is it chalk and some candles too? Or,
but yeah, right. But anyway, so like I spent that whole weekend that I had that just reading the book. And there was even like a little self-paced, like solo kind of like walk through, read and then play and then roll this dice and see what happens. It's, it's a really simple thing that's built into the player handbook. And it was made to teach kids that age how to, maybe I was a little precocious for my age in third grade, but still I ended up playing Dungeons and Dragons a lot that summer with guys who were all in third and fourth grade, right? So we were all pretty young. Yeah, LOL nerds. Yeah, I mean, but when you're in third grade, who gives a fuck, right?
Yes, decidedly. Yes.
Yeah. Because let's be honest, we would play Dungeons and Dragons, and then once the first kid had to leave, the game would break up, and then we would all grab sticks and like plastic guns or whatever, and we would do it in the woods, and beat each other with sticks. So I felt there was, it's anyway.
Which is essentially the third grade version of that sport where it's like boxing and chess combined.
Right.
Just saying.
So anyway, basic Dungeons. So what I did was I went to Grok, and I chose basic for two reasons. A, because I have the most kind of like nostalgic feeling for it, and it's a decidedly simple mechanic. The mechanics are simple enough to where I felt like Grok would never kind of forget, and because how AIs have a tendency to get confused when they have a lot of kind of things to remember in a long chat. Right?
Oh yeah.
So I want to keep it simple, and so I said, "Hey, Grok, do you know the rules for basic Dungeons and Dragons?" And it said, "Yeah." And here's a summary of all the rules for basic Dungeons and Dragons. And I was like, "Okay, absolutely, it knows what it's doing." So then I said, "Okay, would you be able to be the DM for a solo game?" And I based it on one of my favorite basic D&D modules that I played probably more than once. And I owned it too. So I knew the module pretty well. So I knew the story and I knew some of the big encounters and things like that. And it was important for me to know it because I even got the PDF pulled up just so I could because I want to see if Grok actually knows the module, right? Actually, and because it may say, "Oh yeah, I know it." So he knows what the summary is, but then it doesn't really know it. And so it just starts making shit up that sounds like it would anyway. But this Grok didn't do that. This Grok knows exactly what's in that module. And room 14 on tier 2 of the pyramid is the same as what's in the thing. Now, it will change things because it's a solo adventure. But anyway, I was really surprised by how cool that was. And I spent an inordinate amount of time yesterday doing that.
Let me add a step to that because I have wanted to play Cyberpunk Red forever, but have never found somebody who wants to GM for me. Mostly people who are like, "Oh, I'll play. You're going to GM, right?" So it's like, oh, okay. So I tried it with Grok and Scott. I said because I wanted to try and catch it, like making shit up. Like you remember GPT when it used to not know something. So I wanted to try and catch it slipping, and I've got the Cyberpunk Red GM manual and almost all of the supplemental material here on my bookshelf. So I told it that hey, we're going to roll up a character, we're going to start playing. Anytime we're talking about a rule, I'd like you to reference where I can find it. And not only does it know what the rules are, it knows the page where it's at, and it'll tell you how far down the page it is and how far inside of the paragraph that you're looking. It's amazing, and it actually is referencing all the rules and then tweaking them slightly, and will tell you if you ask it to. It'll tell you how it's tweaking them to make it work for a solo adventure. Shit's cool.
Yeah. Well, and so here's the thing. Like I think, and I actually just had a conversation at work today about this, and it was that if you want to do, if you're a D&D fan and you're all by yourself, and like most adults, we just don't have time, right? We have time maybe to sit down and read a book for a couple hours, but we don't have time to sit down for 6 hours on a Saturday or a Sunday or whatever and play D&D with our buddies, right? And finding a group of people to play D&D with as an adult is even harder, right? So what this is it's an alternative to watching a TV show, reading a book, right? Something that you would normally do by yourself. And you could sit there with an iPad and Grok or on a PC or whatever, and you could basically, let's say you've got 2 hours to burn, you can do a solo, Dungeons and Dragons adventure or a cyberpunk adventure or name your favorite game.
I'll tell you another interesting one. You could still do it with friends. You could. What interesting thing that this opens up for me is this lets you do like asynchronous stuff. Like, hey, people are at work, but like you just kind of drop your portion when you can, and then have the thing, kick off and do GM actions at the end of, let's say, like lunchtime or whatever.
Yeah.
Like there's so many cool options for this. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail us too much. I figured some of the nerds in chat would appreciate this. And this, so I've been sick for a couple days. This chat's kind of picked up on with my voice. And yesterday I was definitely like at my lowest. So that's what I did with, being, barely coherent yesterday was played around with an AI. It was good stuff.
All right. Anyway, yes, this is going against my keep the show tighter thing. It was an interesting 10-minute rabbit hole to go down to, but on to better things. All right, segment 1, right? So my 3 rules. So these are stories that are current, but it's going to be focusing on my whole idea of the 3 rules. And like I said, most of you guys have probably heard these before, but ultimately it's been a while since I really did a kind of deep dive on them. So I thought this would be a good opportunity. So
but before we start down that, did you want to move to Rumble?
Oh, yeah. Let's do that. All right. So if you are a mod, if you could post the link in the chat for Rumble, we're gonna stop here on YouTube, and we're going to move everybody over to Rumble because, we're going to talk about domestic stuff, and we're going to do it, without, it's a limitless rabbit hole. We're going to do it in a way that, YouTube may not appreciate. So let's roll over to Rumble. Let's see, I'll post it in the chat here. All right, there you go. Now it's in the chat. There we go. Daisy put it in. Scott wants to drop the N-word. No, I don't want to drop the N-word. All right.
What?
Yeah, the N-word is nude. Nuclear. Nuclear. N-U-K-U-L-R. All right. Let's jump on over to Rumble Watcher. Hit it.
2, 0, 1, 1.
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone.
3, 6, 4, 6.
The chair is against the wall.
3, 6.
The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache.
8, 2, 5,
John has a long mustache.
8, 2, 5, 0, 9.
It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
2, 1.
All right.